Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Faiz and my Safa and welcome to yet another podcast of Hum Sukun. Today, we're going to talk about cricket, which is actually pretty close to our heart. And we thought that cricket ke baare mein baat karni chahiye because the World Cup is just around the corner. And I'm pretty sure Pakistan ki puri jo awam hai, wo cricket ke baare mein bahut na crazy hai. So today we're going to talk about cricket, and it's not like hum Pakistan ki history patayenge and just give a history lesson to you. It's more about reflecting and connecting it to society as a whole. And for that, we actually read one of books of Ali Khan, Cricket in Pakistan. Uske baare mein Safa thodi der mein batayenge. But basically, when we read the book, we realized that Pakistan, the cricket in itself, Pakistan is more than just a sport, and it actually represents society as a whole. So with that being said, हम दोनों ने वो book पढ़ी थी, and it was actually pretty fascinating read. So we thought कि इस पे एक हमें episode करना ज़रूरी है. So Safa, would you like to begin talking about the book and etc.?
Yeah, so I have the book here with me. It's called Cricket in Pakistan, Nation, Identity and Politics. So this is written by Dr. Ali Khan. Ye bhi currently professor hai NUMS mein. I think he's still there. So इनका क्या सीन है कि he studies cricket from an anthropological perspective. So he tries to understand कि society कैसे evolve हुई है, cricket की team जो है, cricket का जो culture है, वो कैसे साथ साथ evolve हुआ है, and how they have shaped each other. So he looks at it from a two-way perspective. कि society ने cricket को कैसे shape किया, cricket in Pakistan ने society को कैसे shape किया. And it's a really fascinating study क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में ऐसे literature बहुत कम है, which is very surprising because cricket is the heartthrob of the nation. हमें पता है कि यार cricket is a big deal, and especially for a country like Pakistan जिसके पास इतने ज़्यादा avenues नहीं है for international competition, to really give other countries, like हमारा बाकी spheres में इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है, but for in cricket we have a lot of pride, we have a strong sense of identity with cricket. So लेकिन people have not really studied how that has shaped society. So this book tries to do that, and it's a really fascinating read. Or this is not going to be a book review. We're just going to talk about a certain topic that this book tackles, which is how every single era of Pakistan cricket has reflected something in society. How basically the team has been a microcosm of society. So हम इसकी बात करेंगे, and I think let's just first of all start right from the beginning.
I think we should start with the emergence of cricket in subcontinent, और उससे आगे फिर हम continue करें. So I think you should take
so
the
we're
lead
going
on
to
that.
talk about how cricket even started in this area. अब सोचने की बात ये है कि अब पाकिस्तान इंडिया जैसे मुल्कों में क्यों क्रिकेट इतनी मशहूर है लेकिन यूएस और कनाडा में नहीं है, हालांकि उधर भी like they were also colonies. So why is it us? So the book does थोड़ा सा elaborate on that, and one of the reasons is because of the social hierarchy that we had, which is very rigid. बहुत कम social mobility होती थी. So the very few avenues of trying to be on the same level as everyone was cricket was one of them. ठीक है, तो बहुत कम होता था कि यार lower middle class से या फिर upper class में जाओ or something like this. So people use cricket to do that. तो हमें पता है गोरे तो खेलते थे, ठीक है, तो our own segments of society slowly started picking it up, और गोरे भी बहुत encourage करते थे इसको. And the first community that properly started their own club were the Parsis. अब Parsis का अगर आप history पढ़ो तो Parsis were a very influential group in this area. उनके पास बहुत affluence थी, उनके पास बहुत ज़्यादा influence over theater and other spheres भी था. So they were the first community to start their own cricket community, their own cricket club, and they started playing with the Gore. Their second जो team थी, that was the Hindus. The Hindus made their own. They looked at the Parsis and they're like, हमारे पास अपनी team होनी चाहिए. So they made their own community club or cricket team बनी. And these three started playing with each other. And if you look at history as well, तो हमें पता है कि Muslims were always very skeptical of British ways, तौर तरीके, उनका like सारे education को भी हम बहुत like शक से देखते थे. So we did not pick up cricket until 20 years after, I think, Hindus के बाद. Lekin eventually Muslims also picked it up. And then these four teams started playing against each other, and it grew into this epic tournament called the quadrangular. ठीक है, तो ये पूरे subcontinent में बड़े-बड़े शहरों में ये खेला जाता था, and when you read about it, it sounds like it's from a fantasy, like the streets would go empty, it was the talk of the town, people would gather around, बहुत hype होती थी इसके बारे में, तो उसकी वजह से पूरे शहर में बहुत ज़्यादा popularity बढ़नी शुरू हो गई. And because India is a very, it's a very pluralistic society, हर किस्म के cultures हैं उधर, हर किस्म के like और भी religions और communities हैं, Buddhists and Christians etc. तो उन लोगों ने अपनी एक community team बनाई और उसका नाम था The Rest. ठीक है, तो ये 4 टीम्स हमारे पास थी, हिंदूज, मुस्लिम्स, पारसीज एंड द गोरे, और फिर 5वीं थी द रेस्ट। तो दे स्टार्टेड प्लेइंग अगेंस्ट ईच अदर, और ये फिर पूरा टूर्नामेंट बन गया द पेंटेंगुलर। तो दिस वाज प्लेड अराउंड इन डिफरेंट सिटीज, और सारी कम्युनिटीज बहुत इन्वॉल्व थी, छोटे छोटे स्पिन ऑफ्स बन गए इस टूर्नामेंट के, एंड इट स्टार्टेड ग्रोइंग। ठीक है, तो जस्ट अ शॉर्ट स्टोरी अबाउट हाउ दैट हैपेंड। अब हम बात करेंगे कि पाकिस्तान में कैसे क्रिकेट स्टार्टेड। अब 1947 में पार्टीशन हुआ, एंड क्रिकेट इज अ ग्रेट वे ऑफ रिफ्लेक्टिंग कि यार how did Pakistan even survive, cricket wise and also society wise, like economy wise and everything. So 1947 में जब partition हुआ, a lot of the machinery, a lot of the institutional support, financial support बहुत ज़्यादा इंडिया में ही रह गया. A lot of the things that we were promised, we did not get that as well. बहुत ज़्यादा influx भी था of refugees and everything. So it was very surprising that Pakistan even survived. You know, people were not expecting that to happen. A lot of people questioned कि यार पाकिस्तान कर भी पाएगा या नहीं. Not only did Pakistan survive, we actually reached like periods of relative prosperity as well. तो ये क्रिकेट में भी यही सीन हुआ था.
And
ज़्यादातर
it's
हमारे
funny.
क्रिकेटिंग सेक्टर्स,
It's
हाँ
funny
हाँ,
how when we talk about partition and lack of resources, no one ever mentions any sport or हमने कभी पढ़ा नहीं था. It was
हाँ
actually because of this book that we realized, oh, partition के बाद cricket का क्या बना था.
हाँ, क्रिकेट, how did cricket happen? The thing is, cricket usually, जैसे अब फाइज भी I think बात करेगा कि cricket was usually played in schools and colleges, and it was an urban elite sport. तो ज्यादातर जो हमारे सेंटर्स थे स्कूल्स और यूनिवर्सिटीज के, वो ज्यादातर इंडिया में रह गए, एंड द वंस दैट वर हियर वाज जस्ट गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज था, और वो
और
इस्लामिया
इस्लामिया.
यूनिवर्सिटी,
Yeah.
इस्लामिया थी. So these were the 2 centers that we had, और कराची और लाहौर were the only 2 big city centers जिधर क्रिकेट प्रॉपर्ली खेली जाती थी. तो we did not have any proper, कोई बोर्ड हमारा प्रॉपर नहीं था, कोई सिस्टम हमारा नहीं था. We could barely survive in cricket. लेकिन not only did we, हमने सिर्फ टीम नहीं खड़ी की, we created a very competitive team. And just to give you an idea, and again we're going to talk about how society and cricket reflects each other. हमने बात की ना कि society में भी it's surprising that Pakistan survived. It's a, you know, it's a question, it's a mystery almost, it's a paradox कि पाकिस्तान कैसे कर लेता है. तो क्रिकेट का भी यही सीन था कि जब टीम बन गई in 1952 we had our first series with England, was it?
India first.
1952 में इंग्लैंड के साथ था, 1954 में इंडिया के साथ था.
No,
1950
52
oh 52 में इंडिया के साथ था,
54
sorry.
England.
1952 में we played against India. हाँ, India is the reason we actually joined ICC. We'll talk about that in a future video. 1952 में we played against India and we actually won one test match, which is a big deal. ठीक है. 1954 में we played against England and we won a test match there as well. I'm not talking about the series. We just registered one test match win. Just to give you an idea of how that big of a deal that is, it took India 20 years to beat England. England was the bap of cricket, yaar. Like, you cannot just show up in your first ever series and defeat them. Like, बाकी countries took a lot of time. India को 20 साल लगे, New Zealand को 26 साल लगे just to register a win. And we did it in our first series. So that's and that's actually a record that we had. कि यार एक तो हमने इंग्लैंड को बहुत जल्दी हरा दिया, and another record was कि every single team we played against, we registered one win. So we showed up, but despite not having any backing, no financial support, no proper board, we still showed up and we played cricket. And the same thing was with society. Like, we did not have any support, we did not have any proper structures. Lekin society somehow stood and we took a stand, and किसी तरीके से मामला सब कुछ शुरू हो गया पाकिस्तान का. So this is the unique resilience. This is the first era. It's defined by unique resilience in both cricket and society.
Yeah, with that being said, it's important to highlight the role of A.H. Kardar. So not many people actually know about Kardar, but he was actually the first captain of the Pakistan cricket team and one of the most pivotal figures in actually making sure that Pakistan cricket team बनती है. So he Oxford graduate थे और Oxford cricket team में खेलते थे. And as Safa earlier mentioned कि England के खिलाफ हमारी series थी. So before we actually went to England, पहले एक unofficial test match हुआ था West Indies के खिलाफ, and India से पूछा था West Indies ने कि how's Pakistan as a team, and they're a club level team because resources वगैरह नहीं थे. And when they
yeah.
actually played and they had a tough time, तो उसके बाद they're like, no, they're actually forced to be reckoned with. And before we got our membership, MCC की जो team थी वो Pakistan visited and they played 2 matches against us. And that's when we won. And वो फिर हमें membership मिली. And then we had to go to England. And A.H. Kardar wrote his book on test status on trial. And for him, this was one of the most important series because he's like, okay, we did get the membership, but no one actually took us serious. So this England tour mattered so much to us. And Kardar ki phir, हमें पता नहीं, but he was actually a great tactician and one of those figures who knew what to do. And there's actually quotes जिसमें बताते हैं कि Kardar was the Donald Bradman of Pakistan, not
Yeah.
just for his
Pakistan
cricket
cricket
stuff.
owes a lot to Kardar.
Yeah,
Even when he was captain and even बाद में. he
हाँ
played.
chairman भी जब बना था तो he did
हाँ.
a lot. With that being said, well, I think you all need to know about Kardar. Let's talk a bit more about cricket expansion. कि चलो Kardar ने टीम बना दी, हम 54 में जीते. उसके बाद क्या हुआ? So as Safa earlier mentioned, पहले सिर्फ लाहौर और कराची में cricket centers थे. But what happened जब one unit policy introduced हुई and Pakistan became one eastern wing and one western wing, तो वो जो कल्चरल और प्रोविंशियल डिवाइड थी ना वेस्टर्न विंग में कि ये सिंध है, ये पंजाब है, ये लाहौर में ही रहेंगे, वो कराची में रहेंगे, दैट सीम टू वैनिश इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्रिकेट. तो हुआ क्या था, आफ्टर द वन यूनिट पॉलिसी, हैदराबाद एंड सरगोदा स्टार्टेड प्लेइंग फर्स्ट क्लास क्रिकेट, which actually showed the expansion in itself of cricket from just the 2 cities of Pakistan. And slowly and yet surely team को नए players मिल रहे और team found success as well. It's no surprise at all क्योंकि 1977 में we had a series leveling with Australia, and in 1979, 83, 87 we reached the World Cup semi-finals. और सारे अभी जैसे अभी भी बाबर आजम से सवाल पूछा कि आप टॉप 4 में जाएंगे या नहीं, it's kind of funny how हम इतने सालों इकट्ठे सेमीफाइनल में पहुंचे थे and we eventually won it in 92. So that showed how good we were as a team. And it's not just कि हमारे पास famous ना है, even our players were exceptional, or they're actually representation of society in itself. अगर आपको पाकिस्तान का याद हो तो 60s and 70s was an era of liberal ideas and everything. और लोग जब नॉस्टैल्जिया में भी पाकिस्तान को याद करते हैं 60s 70s की बात करते हैं कि ओ ये हुआ था वो हुआ था. So in 60s and 70s, Pakistan was more culturally liberal. We had a liberal censor board, cinemas the, folk culture tha, even
यूट्यूब के टाइम में ऑलरेडी थोड़ी लिबरल सेंसर regime थी, and then
भुट्टो जब आया तब तो ज्यादा हो गई.
हाँ और भी ज्यादा हो गए.
तो pluralistic, yeah, so with that being said, a pluralistic approach of Islam थी, tourists थे, Jackie Kennedy आई, Queen Elizabeth आई.
हाँ, like if you look at Pakistan के जो nostalgia वाले pictures होते हैं, they're all that era.
And we were generally comfortable with westernized ideas. So just तो फिर हमारे superstars भी इस तरह के थे, इमरान खान, माजिद खान. And वो एक होता है ना कि they would interact with Western people in their own language, or they would be fine with their cultural values as well. So Pakistan were way ahead of the rest in that scene के मतलब वो उनको वो वाला issue नहीं था. And we were ahead of India as well. India के पास international exposure नहीं था और हमारे जो थे urban educated थे, we had good English, we had aggression as well. और हमारे generally high earners थे, जैसे हम कारदार की बात करते हैं, he's also from Oxford, Imran Khan is also from Oxford. However, जब भुट्टो का दौर खत्म हुआ and then came Zia. Safa, would you like to take over after that?
Yeah, for sure. तो अच्छा, when we talk about Pakistan और India का जो मतलब comparison था, तो Pakistan was a very cocky, very brash, very confident team on the pitch, and India was a very timid team at that time. So again, as Faiz talked about, it's because of how society was at that time. So that reflected in the team. And when we talk about cricket stars at that time, they were not cricket stars, they were superstars. They were way bigger than any other movie stars or singers or anything. So they were quite a phenomena, I would say. And they were very internationally accepted because of that. So लेकिन अब demographic पर थोड़ा सा change होना शुरू होता है because society.
I forgot to mention one thing. They used to go in England and play counties. That was a big
हाँ, they
difference
used to.
as well.
हाँ, वो county cricket खेलते थे. They would earn a lot as well. Like they were very internationally established. Not just इधर सिर्फ मशहूर नहीं थे, पूरी दुनिया में मशहूर थे.
Oh, Kerry Packers
they were
में
an
भी गए थे, but
international
we'll talk
phenomenon.
about that in another episode someday. You can continue.
हाँ, तो ज़िया का फिर जब टाइम आया, अब ज़िया के बारे में जो भी आप कहो ठीक है, whatever is ठीक है. लेकिन he actually played quite a positive role in cricket in one way, and
Can
that
you
is
also
because
tell
he
people
played.
why he did that? Why do
हाँ
dictators
because
support cricket?
जब जुल्फिकार अली भुट्टो की वो फांसी वगैरह कराई and the whole coup took place, he needed something to थोड़ा सा divert the attention के from what's happening in the country. So he kind of used cricket, and he's like how he knew कि cricket had a lot of potential to grab the nation's imagination, थोड़ा सा उनका focus, थोड़ी सी उनकी identity थोड़ा सा shape कर सकते हैं उसके through. So he really used cricket very diplomatically, very politically, and he played quite an important role in expanding cricket. So one of the ways that happened was कि पहले जो क्रिकेट की जो लाइक कमेंट्री थी या लोगों को जिस तरीके से पता चलता था, it was through radio and न्यूज़पेपर का इतना फायदा नहीं था क्योंकि इंग्लिश तो लिटरेसी रेट तो इतनी ज्यादा थी नहीं पाकिस्तान में, especially at that time, not very high. और साथ साथ रेडियो पे जो कमेंट्री थी was in English, so people could not really understand obviously at that time. तो क्या हुआ कि he came and he said कि यार उर्दू में कमेंट्री होनी चाहिए. So he is the one who introduced Urdu commentary. और फिर क्या होता था कि 30 minutes of Urdu होती थी, फिर 30 minutes of English होती थी, तो people started tuning in. And at that same time, the team is massive, the team is really succeeding. They're making waves across like the globe. So it was very exciting to tune in and listen कि यार ये हमारे superstars हैं और ये सारी चीजें कर रहे हैं. तो उसी टाइम के अराउंड, ये 1970s की हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो 1977 में फिर एक बहुत पीटीवी का बहुत एक फेमस ट्रांसमिशन था ऑफ द ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ जो हमारी सीरीज थी ऑफ दैट क्रिकेट मैच, एंड वी एक्चुअली वॉन दैट मैच उसमें जिसमें ट्रांसमिशन वगैरह उस टाइम पर जब हो रही
Imagine
थी.
how
और
cool
उसके
it
फौरन
is that the first cricket match you see on television is the one that Pakistan wins in Australia.
आई नो, एंड इन ऑस्ट्रेलिया वो एडिलेड आई थिंक से हो रही थी वो सैटेलाइट ट्रांसमिशन. तो 78 में फिर हमारी उससे भी ज्यादा बहुत बड़ी एक सीरीज विक्ट्री थी अगेंस्ट इंडिया, व्हिच वाज अ रियली बिग मोमेंट इन आवर क्रिकेट हिस्ट्री. तो वो भी सारा लोगों ने लाइव देखा. तो पीपल वर एक तो लिसनिंग के अच्छा यार ये सुपरस्टार्स हैं, दे वर फाइनली एबल टू सी दोस फेसेस. और इट वाज अ वेरी कम्युनल एक्टिविटी, लाइक एक घर में टीवी होता था तो 10-15 लोग साथ मिलके देख रहे होते थे, गलियों से लोग मिल जाके छोड़ के देख रहे होते थे. तो it was there was a lot of buzz of cricket because एक
Even
तो our
today,
team was very
yeah,
good
even
because of
today people
technological
can
changes.
relate to this कि कभी भी क्रिकेट मैच होता है, वर्ल्ड कप वगैरह स्क्रीनिंग्स होती हैं, लोग एक दूसरे के घर जाते हैं, तो वो ट्रेंड पहले तब से शुरू हुआ हुआ जब वो
हाँ, और
ब्रॉडकास्टिंग
तब
हुई थी.
और भी ज्यादा था because TVs were not that common, so people would really gather around. It was an event, तो proper लोग देखते थे. And like that obviously grew फिर 1986 में जब जावेद मियांदाद ने वो छक्का मारा तो 1
1
billion
billion
people
people saw
1
that.
billion people tuned in to watch that. So that is how technology really, एक तो 1 unit वगैरह जो फाइज ने बात की वो चलो ठीक है, cricket has started to expand, लेकिन because of this, because of the hype of the cricket team, because of how well we were doing, because of technological changes, because of Ziad's pushing of cricket, it really started spreading. और पहले अर्बन स्पोर्ट होती थी, फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मैदान क्रिकेट शुरू हो गए. अच्छा पहले स्कूल से आते थे बाय द वे, तो प्रॉपर कोचिंग प्रॉपर ग्रूमिंग के थ्रू ये सारे प्लेयर्स आ रहे थे. लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बिकॉज ऑफ अर्बनाइजेशन एज वेल, स्कूल्स में मैदान वगैरह क्रिकेट ग्राउंड्स थे वो कम होने शुरू हो गए, एंड people started playing मैदान cricket. And then आहिस्ता आहिस्ता then tape ball cricket started happening. And the rumor is कि नाज़माबाद में, which is in Karachi, the first ball wrapped around electrical tape, came through and people started playing tape ball cricket, or the rest is history. So
I,
Pakistan में was quite a
I just
phenomena.
I just want to say कि Shahid Afridi in his book also mentioned कि उसका भी जो ये स्टाइल था was actually because of tape ball cricket, और वो भी कराची में खेला
Yeah, so a lot of our superstars, including Waqar Younis and Wasim Akram, और जो हमारा जो दूसरा आ गया, lots of playing styles came because of table cricket. और हमारी जो team dynamic थी, style of cricket started changing. एक तो demographic change हो रहा है because हर शहरों से बुरे वाला एक्सप्रेस जैसे वकार यूनिस को कहते थे, different सियालकोट वगैरह से हर जगह से players आने शुरू हो गए. तो एक तो the demographic of the team changed, and साथ साथ उनका style changed because they were not coming from school coaching anymore, they were coming from the streets literally. So they were playing वो day night वाली चीज भी शुरू हो गई थी उस टाइम के राउंड में,
कराची
like
में लोगों ने लाइट्स ऑन कर दी स्ट्रीट्स के अंदर,
like
लोग खेलना
फ्लैश लाइट्स
शुरू हो
वगैरह
गए.
ऑन करके वो खेलते थे. The overs became shorter, कम बॉलें खेली जाती थी. It was a very high pace intense cricket match. तो क्या होता था कि the style because of that became very sporadic, it became very inconsistent, and it became a lot about passion instead of consistency because वो discipline नहीं.
Let's just say we went into boom boom mode.
हाँ वो जो जैसे शाहिद अफरीदी का वो जो है ना बहुत he was a phenomena because of his way of playing and people like Misbah were like यार ये तो टुक टुक है तो that is where it kind of started stemming from कि people started valuing that kind of style of playing more तो वो टीम की में बहुत ज्यादा नजर आने शुरू हो गया और बहुत ज्यादा इनकंसिस्टेंसी आहिस्ता आहिस्ता इनकलकेट होनी शुरू
और
हो
उस पर ये भी बात ऐड करना चाहता हूँ, इफ यू हेयर इंडियंस टॉकिंग अबाउट फास्ट बॉलिंग तो पूछते हैं ना कि व्हाई डज पाकिस्तान प्रोड्यूस सच गुड फास्ट बॉलर्स, तो यही बात बताते हैं, पाकिस्तान प्लेज टेप बॉल क्रिकेट और टेप बॉल में बॉल स्पीड से निकलता है, एंड इफ यू आर प्लेइंग तो स्पिनर्स को खास फायदा नहीं होता टेप बॉल में, सो एवरी किड ओवर हियर इवन इन स्कूल्स विद अ टेप बॉल ही इज लाइक मैंने तो शोएब अख्तर बन जाना है, तो
या तो
दैट
शोएब अख्तर भी ऐसे ही रहे
टेप बॉल से वो जिट निकलती है और बॉल स्पीड से निकलती है, तो वो बात यही होती है, आप कहीं भी क्रिकेट मैच देख रहे हैं, वो जो यूट्यूब पे भी वीडियोस आई थी, एवरी वन इज अ फास्ट बॉलर इन मैदान क्रिकेट, नो वन इज अ
या
स्पिनर एट ऑल, तो ये बहुत मैटर करती है, और हम वो अनप्रिडिक्टेबल तो हो गए, बट आई थिंक व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द गुड्स वी शुड आल्सो टॉक अबाउट द बैड्स ऑफ आवर क्रिकेटिंग सिचुएशन एज वेल, तो आई थिंक वी शुड मूव ऑन टू करप्शन.
one thing about that I want to complete on this point is कि ज़िया के टाइम में जब ये सारा क्रिकेट हर जगह फैलने शुरू हो गए एंड बिकॉज टीम के अंदर भी वो डेमोग्राफिक चेंज होने शुरू हो गया और स्टाइल ऑफ प्लेइंग भी आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चेंज होने शुरू हो गया हम 70s और 80s की बात कर रहे हैं लेकिन वी डोंट रियली सी इट इन द टीम एज मच बिकॉज द कैप्टन इज इमरान खान एट द टाइम ठीक है एंड व्हेन यू हैव ठीक है सोसाइटी डज शेप योर क्रिकेट टीम ये सारी हम बात कर रहे हैं लेकिन देन देयर आर इंडिविजुअल्स एंड स्पेशली इन प्लेसेस ऑफ लीडरशिप दैट कैन रियली शेप अ टीम बिकॉज छोटी सी टीम है तो ही Imran Khan's charismatic leadership at that time really insulated the team from the societal changes that were happening. So ठीक है team का demographic change हो रहा है instead of an urban sport it has become a middle class sport और ज़्यादा like you know हर किस्म के segment के लोग खेल रहे हैं अब लेकिन इमरान खान की वजह से because of his leadership he was a very strict कैप्टन ये बात अगर आप पढ़ो ना इमरान खान के बारे में ही इज नोन फॉर दिस न्यूट्रल अंपायरिंग उसने स्टार्ट की ही वाज नोन एज समवन कि यार अगर कोई भी मैच फिक्सिंग करे कोई भी चीटिंग करे कोई भी स्लैक करे इमरान खान वुड किल देम लाइक लोग ऐसे बात करते थे कि यार इमरान खान इजाजत ही नहीं देता था इन चीजों की तो 1992 तक व्हेन दे वॉन द वर्ल्ड कप अब that is a very pivotal point in Pakistan cricket and Faiz will talk about that 1992 में we hit our peak and Imran Khan एकदम से leaves and you have to understand कि team का demographic change हो गया है and there is no one to mentor them now because there is a huge void of leadership so then उसके बाद really you know the team is very vulnerable to all sorts of things so I let Faiz talk about that
So yeah, thank you. So after 1992, after Imran Khan left, so if you read Wasim Akram's book, so although he's not a fan of Javed Miandad, लेकिन वो कहता है कि इमरान खान के बाद the second most influential player who kept everyone in check was Javed Miandad. And after 1992, Javed Miandad played only a year and a half, और उसके बाद उसको भी टीम से in short निकाल दिया गया. And that led to a leadership gap, and then हुआ ये कि our team became a part of corrupt activities, nepotism. And why did it happen? क्योंकि एक leadership vacuum exist हो गया. So first we have Wasim Akram becoming captain, and then we have Salim Malik becoming captain. And Salim Malik is known to be, one of those जो fixing में था शामिल, and there's lots of talk about him actually doing that. And even Wasim Akram mentions that Salim Malik would place people who aren't there on merit, but just because कि उसका दोस्त है, so nepotism also started coming up. और फिर
imagine the shift going from Imran Khan and then to a captain like Salim Malik
Salim Malik. And
it's a recipe for
genuinely
devastating.
no one trusted each other in the team. And Wasim Akram is said to have said कि since हम लोग team हमारी बहुत ऊपर चली गई थी, so every single player out there was actually skeptical of the other person in the team.
Lobbies बन गई थी
Wasim Akram says कि we're not saying him इसकी जो book है ये 100% accurate, but I'm quoting him. He said that every deputy that I had concealed a dagger that he's ready to use. Imagine a captain saying that कि मेरा जो भी vice captain आए ना वो तैयार है मुझे उड़ाने के लिए. And it's not, and it shows Pakistan team kept changing captains from time to time. कोई stability नहीं थी. And even PCB also had organizational issues जिसकी वजह से मसला आता था and no action was taken. And it's strange when I read about this, they're like randomly एक बंदा कहता है मैंने मैच नहीं खेलना, पाकिस्तान वापस जा रहा हूँ. Oh, so imagine your team be like दो बंदे वापस आ गए because they don't really trust the team. Then we have Ramiz Raja getting captain and no one's backing.
असल में क्या one of the reasons that was happening was क्योंकि a lot of players were fixing and they were fixing with different lobbies.
Yeah.
So there were 3 lobbies that were fixing with different people और एक lobby like एक group whistleblowers थे तो everyone was just you know it was horrible.
Everyone was doubting one another. फिर वो famous वो शेन वॉर्न का टेस्टिमोनियल आ गया जिसमें वो बता रहा था कि मुझे सलीम मालिक ने पैसे ऑफर किए थे for bowling badly, and that was a historic win for Pakistan. ऑस्ट्रेलिया के खिलाफ टेस्ट मैच जीते, but when शेन वॉर्न came out और फिर पाकिस्तान का everything exploded. तो ये नहीं है कि हम सिर्फ ये हमारा फिर वो पीसीबी का जो इशू लाइक उस टाइम पे हांसी क्रोनिये का भी वो इशू निकला तो मनी वाज इन क्रिकेट एज वेल और
मोहम्मद अजरुद्दीन का they were like it was a huge
अजरुद्दीन हांसी
we'll
क्रोनिये
talk about it in a future episode. It
in
was
another episode
big,
because it's such a big thing, commercialization
yeah,
of
we're
cricket,
going to talk about commercialization, corruption on an
कैरी
international level.
पैकेट्स और फिर ये लीग्स वगैरह के बारे में भी उस सब कुछ बात करेंगे। और उसके बाद फिर क्या हुआ कि हमें ये चीज बाद में भी नजर आई। शाहिद अफरीदी इज रिपोर्टेड टू हैव सेड कि मैंने पीसीबी को बताया था कि ये सब जो लोग हैं ये करप्शन में मुलविस हैं। मोहम्मद आमिर, सलमान
Yeah.
बट, मोहम्मद आसिफ, इट्स देयर ऑन रिकॉर्ड एंड इवन रिटन इन हिज बुक, येट नो वन टुक एक्शन। एंड सडनली जब वो निकल आया दे वर लाइक ओ ये क्या हुआ, हमें तो पता ही नहीं था।
हाँ नहीं, और जब क्यूम रिपोर्ट भी आई थी
हाँ
1999 में, वो दुबई गई और फिर 2000 में आई थिंक वो हांसी क्रॉनी 2000 में हुआ था आई थिंक
या
इट रीसर्फेस
या
एंड इवन नथिंग हैपेंड पीपल वर
and
लाइक हाँ
only it revealed like half of the team is involved in such activities, but we are like no, हमने कुछ नहीं करना, ठीक है।
हाँ
And
there was like कोई बहुत strong evidence नहीं है ये वो, but even if there's no strong evidence you can
there's
understand कि यार
there's
करते
fire
तो है
where
ना टीम
there's
की।
smoke, वो वाला हिसाब है, कुछ करते थे तो नाम आया है ना। तो
हाँ
with that being
मतलब
said,
कोई अगर अगर 10 लोग नहीं कर रहे उनमें से 2 बंदे तो कुछ ना कुछ कर ही रहे होंगे ना, तो फिर नहीं
जिस पे ज्यादा एविडेंस है उस पर तो एक्शन लो ना, कम अज कम। With that being said, it's time to move on to the religious element, and I think Safa would continue with that. कि कैसे सबके बाद टीम religious हो गई।
हाँ तो यू कैन सी हाउ सोसाइटी जिस तरीके से चेंज करी है। हमने बात की कि अच्छा यार ये 1947 वाली रेजिलियंस वाली यूनिक रेजिलियंस जो थी, फिर 1960s और 60s में वो जो ग्लैम एक फीचर था, 1970s में जिया क्या क्या इन्फ्लुएंस था, 1990s में वी टॉक्ड अबाउट करप्शन, और पाकिस्तान में वैसे भी इन सोसाइटी करप्शन इज अ नॉर्म, इट्स लाइक इट्स एम्बेडेड इन सोसाइटल वैल्यूज। तो हमारी टीम में भी वो नजर आने शुरू हो गया, इट वाज वेरी नॉर्मलाइज्ड इन आवर टीम। तो साथ साथ because of Zia's Islamization वो हमें इतनी ज्यादा नजर नहीं आई। Probably one of the reasons is इमरान खान का जो इन्फ्लुएंस था। लेकिन at this time 2000s में especially तबलीगी जमात का बहुत ज्यादा like रूज था, they were getting quite popular। तो हमारी टीम में वो नजर आना शुरू हो गया। तो there is a very famous individual, Saeed Anwar in this case, who अच्छा, Faiz talked about how 1990s was really characterized by corruption. तो 2000s में the team felt a need to cleanse themselves। ठीक है, तो ये एक थोड़ा सा था कि यार we have sinned और हमने बहुत बड़ी गलती की है और पता नहीं खुदा माफ करेगा या नहीं। तो तबलीगी जमात came in and were like खुदा माफ करेगा, you need to turn to God। तो this whole तबलीग culture, इसमें शाहिद अफरीदी भी थे and Zamamul Haq was the captain at that time। So again we're seeing how captains really shape the team as well। तो बहुत ज्यादा जिस तरीके से हम फिर क्रिकेट
Also,
कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में भी
one of
बात
the
कर
most
चुके हैं, ऑल थैंक्स टू अलमाइटी
thing,
अल्लाह सजदा।
important thing, यूसुफ यूहाना की conversion to मोहम्मद यूसुफ।
यूसुफ यूहाना की कन्वर्जन एग्जैक्टली। तो सईद अनवर का क्या था कि हिज डॉटर हैड दिस रियली लाइफ थ्रेटनिंग डिजीज, और फिर ही सेड कि दिस इज हैपनिंग बिकॉज मैंने एक मैच फिक्स किया था कभी ना कभी। तो he turned to God, और फिर वो he played a really big role in getting everyone else to move towards that kind of way। आप ज़्यादा इस्लाम की तरफ ध्यान दें, things like this। So the team was very characterized by this। ये फिर हमें नजर आता है। But I think Pervez Musharraf once called Mamul Haq to office and he's like, यार ये तुम लोग तुम्हारी परफॉर्मेंस तो नजर आ नहीं रही, जरा ये थोड़ा रोक दो ना अपने ये जो काम है। तो इंजमाम I think after that थोड़ा सा stopped and then he backed out। And then चलो ठीक है, वो सारा religiosity spike हम देख लेते हैं अगर आप 2000s especially early 2000s को देखो। Then what happens is our team is affected by the terrorism going on in the country। तो religiosity spike हो गई, corruption वगैरह हमने बात कर ली। अब 2007 में इंडियन पाकिस्तान स्टॉप्स, राइट, हम एक दूसरे का मैचेस हमारा बंद हो गया। 2008 में हमारा फिर मुंबई अटैक्स होते हैं एंड हमारा आईपीएल खत्म हो जाता है। तो टू रियली बिग सोर्सेज ऑफ रेवेन्यू फॉर आवर प्लेयर्स हैज स्टॉप्ड। 2009 में फिर श्रीलंका अटैक्स होते हैं, तो फिर उसकी वजह से होम क्रिकेट खत्म हो जाती है. And then 2010 में we have the spot fixing scandal. So these the really dark era of Pakistan cricket.
Yes,
Yeah.
and उससे फिर यही होता है, my reputation भी cut off होगी, we're isolated from the
हाँ,
world.
होम क्रिकेट खत्म हो
हाँ,
गया, सोर्सेज ऑफ रेवेन्यू
हम
हमारे खत्म हो
दुबई में
गया,
जाते थे
हम
खेलने in empty
हाँ
stadiums, but with that being said, credit goes to Misbah-ul Haq. That guy does not get enough credit for what he did for our country.
100%.
He was that pivotal figure जिसने सबको इकट्ठा किया, especially after when Shahid Afridi and all of the seniors left after 2011's World Cup, तो उसने सारों को इकट्ठा किया, team rebuilding शुरू हुई, and you saw youngsters coming up.
He had to build from the ground up quite
And
a lot.
Pakistan always had the strength of actually having fast bowlers. However, in Misbah's era, because we didn't have that many fast bowlers, हमारे spin trio, Hafiz, Shahid Afridi, Ajmal, they were wrecking havoc all across the world. Test में Abdur Rahman हो गया. So Misbah was that figure that Pakistan needed, जिसने पाकिस्तान को वापस इकट्ठा किया, and he established a base and foundation for everyone else. फिर सरफराज and सरफराज also did a very good job. मतलब Champions Trophy, and let's be honest, our squad wasn't that good at all during that era. और अब देखें हम उसी का फायदा उठा रहे हैं, that सरफराज ने सारे प्लेयर्स लेकर आए, शादाब, बाबर वगैरह, और अब सारे वही वर्ल्ड सुपरस्टार्स बने हुए. And with that being said, हमारा असल में अब 2 और episodes, because Pakistan cricket is such big thing कि we cannot cover that in one episode at all.
हाँ, we're gonna have हम पाकिस्तान इंडिया के रिलेशंस की बात करेंगे, ऑन एंड ऑफ द फील्ड,
Yeah.
करप्शन की बात उसको ज्यादा
Yeah.
हम डिटेल में देखेंगे. So we're gonna make this a little mini series. लेकिन just to conclude, हमने देखा है कि how as society has evolved, cricket has evolved with it in Pakistan. ठीक है, whether you talk about corruption, religiosity, ज़िया-उल हक का जो impact था, the 1960s का वो जो liberal जो थोड़ा बहुत relatively era था, things like this. अब when we talk about the thing is, this book is named Nation Identity and Politics for a reason. So every single era has an identity that it has reflected from society. The question we want to leave you with is कि यार जो अभी हमारे पास team है, what identity is it embodying? What values of society? What norms of society? What aspect of Pakistani society does this team reflect? So think about it in the context of this discussion and do
We'll
write about
share
it.
our email address. Don't forget to send us responses.
Genuinely, this is something to think about.
Yeah.
So आप कुछ लिखिए, हमारे
आप
साथ
अपने
share करें.
ideas दो, हम अपने ideas देंगे, and then we'll have a discussion on that. And I think on that note, we should conclude our episode. Safa, कुछ और कहना तो नहीं तुमने?
Not at all. Stay tuned for the future ones.
Thank you so much everyone for watching this episode, and I hope आपको पसंद आई होगी. So with that being said, Allah Hafiz.